how to write Tic Tac Toe in C. Now, any of you Python fans may find this a bit unusual, but this channel is kind of Python 360, so everything about Python and then stuff which might also be related to it. And yeah, if you're learning Python, then you're learning code really, aren't you? And problem solving. So I just wanted to show you some books, Python one-liners, which I've mentioned before. I'll just put that over there. That just happened to be lying around. So in 2003, long before I really got into Python, I bought this book, C++ Programming. And to be honest with you, I've never really had a need to do much C++ programming. And instead, more recently, when was this? Probably 2 or 3 years ago, 2018, I thought, with some Python knowledge, I thought it would be good to go back and revisit C or C++. So rather than get wrapped up in the details of classes, I thought I'd study C. And really, with a bit of help from that book, I've gone and written this code. So what I'm about to show you is hopefully an example of tic-tac-toe in C, which if you're starting a new college course, university course, and one of your first tasks is to write a tic-tac-toe game, then this might be a good reference for you. And you'll come across many JavaScript examples online, on YouTube in particular. You'll come across C++ examples, but really you need to learn to walk before you can run. So really, this before this. Really good book, by the way. It's in colour as well, which I don't know, but it just makes it a bit easier on the eye and not quite so dull. And there's little tips, little hot tips. Don't forget. It's quite easy to read, and the good thing about a book is once you're familiar with it, you know exactly in your head where to go to look up something. So I can remember off the top of my head that if I want to look at pointers, it's around about page 110. So I'll just go to, 80% of the way through the book for argument's sake, and yeah, page 107. That's not bad, is it? So pointing to functions. Anyway, yeah, if you're just starting a new computing course, programming, whatever, then hopefully this is just a nice little reference for you. I thought I'd do it just because I wanted to improve my C coding skills, really. I've spent past 2-3 years working pretty much exclusively with Python, and whilst this channel will always be predominantly Python, it's good to have some awareness of other languages. And if you learn C, you might actually realize when you read Python code, you might see if you see Python code which is not so Pythonic, if you don't know what Pythonic means, Pythonic relates to the Zen of Python and how you can write Python code more concisely and make use of the Python language features more efficiently. So you may see, for instance, a for loop, and you'll think, and whether it's JavaScript, C, whatever, you'll recognize that somebody's written Python, but really they've come from a background of C. So it'll answer some questions, and if you want to look at what I've done, here we go. So TTT tic-tac-toe.c. So let's go to the top, and I'm going to make this into what is it? It's Zen mode, isn't it? Just to make it a bit view Zen mode. Where is it? Control plus K plus Z. I never remember that. I need to do some key bindings, but life's too short. And I've got you can synchronize all your settings across VS Code, which I probably should do because I've got 3 machines which I've got it installed on. But I tried to do it earlier, and then I had to, as per my recent successful video, where I've got 7,000 views in about 3 weeks, which is about as many views as I get from the rest of the year from all my other videos. And some of those videos took me days to make, some of my scrapey videos and so on, but anyway, I'm not moaning. So yeah, if you want to synchronize your settings, then you have to have your mobile phone, and oh, do you really want to do all that? I don't know. It just feels like a bit being tagged all the time, authentication. So yeah, that's why I've not got my key binding. Can you synchronize your key bindings across multiple machines? Presumably you can. Has anyone tried it? Is it any good? Comment below if you synchronized your key bindings across various machines. It's probably worth it, I guess, but yeah. You can synchronize with your Microsoft account or with your GitHub account. So yeah, I was trying to do it with my GitHub account. I don't tend to use Microsoft for email or cloud or anything. Anyway, this is the C program to play Noughts and Crosses, as it's called in England, or Tic Tac Toe if you're from the United States of somewhere. Include stdio.h. So much as you would in Python, you would do import requests. This really is just saying include standard.io.h, and this is really for working with files I'm printing to the screen. And just about every C program. C doesn't have so many libraries to import. With Python, you've probably got hundreds or even thousands. With C, I believe there are 40. Don't quote me on that, but I think there are 40. And I think this book somewhere even lists them, which is really nice. And, oh, look at that. This book even has a screenshot from Linux Mint. How nice is that? Most of it's screenshotted from Windows, but obviously if you're writing a book, you need to aim it at the largest audience because you need to pay your bills, don't you? So I'll put this book away. But yeah, I really recommend that. I'm sure there's one on Python as well, so yeah. 11.99 UK pounds, 15.99 US dollars. So it's always just, I'm not saying buy books on everything because you'll end up with a big bookcase and they'll all gather dust and go out of date. But it's always good just to have one handy reference book on each language. Right, we've covered line 1 so far, so I better speed up because otherwise we're going to be here all day. So what I've done is I've made a board, and a board I've used a C array, so car, so it's effectively it's letters. I know there's no letters there as such, but they're effectively if you hover over them, and it's even shown as int, which is quite odd. Yeah. Answers on a postcard on that, but what we've got is character array, and then we specify how many items in the array, so I'm allowing up to 10. So that's effectively a placeholder at number 0 because I want to do 1 is actually 1 on the board, because when I ask the user to enter a square, it's going to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's basically the empty placeholder for all the board positions. And then I'm creating an integer to remember how many plays have happened. So part of my thought process was that unless there have been 5 plays, there's no point even needing to check for whether anybody's won the game or not. Because if there's only been 4 goes, the most either player could have is 2 X's or 2 zeros, so nobody's won. Result, so that's, again, that can be, I thought about making it a Boolean true or false, but I thought, well, also you could have a draw, so you could have 0, 1, 2. So those are just some, effectively they're global variables because they're accessible from any of the functions. Now, a function can be void, can be int. A void basically means that it returns, sorry, a void means you're not supplying any arguments. So board refresh, actually it's board refresh, board setup. It sets up the board the first time it's run, and then subsequent times it's actually refreshing the board. So I'm creating I equals 0 here. So this is an integer and I equals 0. So all it's really doing is I'm using it to increment each time. So what you could have is, so it's 0 plus 1. So what we're really doing is we're creating I plus 1 here is 1, I plus 2 is 2, I plus 3 is 3. And that's how we can index the array. And what we're doing there is we're printing C, and C is actually the character. So I've got C pipe, pipe there. It's not the pipe that you would use in Bash. It's actually a character that you'll see printed to the screen. So it's just an ASCII character. It's not actually doing an operation. And we're doing this 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Could have done it with a for loop, but for readability, I think it's just as easy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's why we're actually beginning at 1, because we want to miss out 0. So that's why we're adding 1 here, and then 2 and 3, so on, just to keep incrementing it. So that's board refresh. That prints the board. Then we've got these, so player X and player 0. I know this looks a bit messy because we've got a character there. We've got X and then we've got 0, but the game's called Noughts and Crosses, so I've kept with the name of the game, and rather than capital 0 and X's, I've done 0 and X. Integer number. So num here is creating an empty variable which we will then load with a value once the player has made their selection. And scanf reads back in the user's input, and then we're going to store it as num, and then num is actually going to be the index of the array. So we've got player X, player 0, player. They're both the same really. The code for each of those is identical. But I've kept them as separate functions because we need to keep them separate when we actually use them in the main function at the end. This void check win, so we're checking if anybody's won. And what I've done is I've just passed it W. So W could either be, I've used W for winner. So W, if I show you further down, yeah, that's the last function, by the way, check win. So again, going back to problem solving, I've split this really just into 4 functions. We've got board refresh, creates the board. We've got player X, player 0, and then we've got check for win. So I've split it into 4, split the problem down into 4 chunks, which is pretty common for, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could probably write it without any functions, but it would look a big mess, wouldn't it? Here, there's 8 checks. So we're checking for 3 horizontals. So the top row, the middle row, the bottom row. We're checking for horizontals on the first vertical, the second vertical, the third vertical. We're checking for diagonal that way or diagonal that way. So there's 8 checks. And here we go, it's the main function. So int main, the main driver, and then what we do is we do board refresh, so it creates an empty board, and then we create a variable W, and then when we're running the code for player X, that W equals X. When we're running the code for player 0 or player 0, W equals 0, because we want to set this here because then it's used in the following function, which is check win. So we want to check if player X has got 3 in a row here. And there we check if player naught has got 3 in a row. So we're using the same function to run the h checks, but we're just checking here, we're checking for x's, 3 x's in a row, and here we're checking for 3 noughts in a row. If it returns anything true, i.e. if it returns 1, then it breaks the program because somebody's won, and we will get the success message, which will follow whichever check was successful. In actual fact, I didn't actually need to do that there. I could have got rid of, I didn't need to do that 8 times. So yeah, already there's a little improvement. This works, by the way, so if you're thinking of copying it, please do, because it works. Take this, improve it, and add in the comments or post the link in the comments to yours on GitHub. And really, this is not a definitive solution, but it's just a solution, and it's just me showing how you can, once you've learned Python, with the aid of a £15 book, then you can learn C programming. So really, I'm hopefully taking away some of the fear factor, if indeed there is any fear factor. Right, let's compile this. So let's come out of this, and let's just go here and clear. And what I could do is, warning type default. Oh, I've got lots of warnings. I didn't have these warnings when I was testing this on my other machine earlier, which is puzzling. Right, let's just bring up terminal, and right, so this is how you compile. I'll show you the ttt.c, the way how you can -o compile from the command line, because you need to know this is, don't rely on any VS Code plugins or anything, that's cheating. So we're saying what we want to output it to, so ttt, if it was Windows you'd need to put exe here, but you don't, not on Linux. So, and then after it's compiled, then I want to run it, so then I'm just going to say ttt, and let's run it. And it's compiled it, and we're already in the game, so how good is that? So player X, enter a square, top left equals 1, bottom right equals 9. So let's go for the middle square. And it's printed the screen. Do you see how it's updated it? So now it's player naught turn. Player naught can go for, let's go for the middle of the top row. And you see how it's updated it again. Player X's turn now, so player X, let's go for square 1, so that's top left. And now it's player naught's go, so player naught, where would you go? Oh well, you need to go to number 9. And player X again. This is going to end in a draw, I believe. Is there any trouble when you're playing against yourself and you've chosen the middle square? I know what I need to do. Let's player X, let's go for left hand of row 2, and let's make player X win. So if player naught can go for 8, which is the middle of the bottom row, and then we will go for the right hand one of row 2, and that should show that player X wins. There we go. So we've got 3 in a row here, so player X is 1. And what happened was it ran the code here, if result equals 1, and result equals 1 because check win, or during the player X's attempt, it ran check win and it passed W being equal to X. So we were running check win, and we were checking for if board 1 equals X. In actual fact, it wasn't this one, it was the second one. So this would have been what caused the X wins. And a bit like with the old, it's not quite like an F string, but if you've seen any examples of C++, they'll be using the string library and C in and C out. With C rather than C++, you'll see most examples using printf. and I've done a new line there which you put inside the quotes, and then %C, that means character. If you're printing a string, then you need to do %S. If you're printing a digit, then you do %D. If you're printing a float, then it's %F. If you're printing a pointer, then it's %P. So there we have it. That is my attempt at Tic Tac Toe, which I've just quickly knocked up, or not so quickly, but I think this is good to understand how programming logic, or a core approach to programming, is transferable. So rather than attempt to do this in Python, which I know better, I wanted to do this using the same thought processes that I would have used if I'd written this in Python. So write it in C if you can. If not, JavaScript, C++, whatever. So this example I will make available to you, and if you're starting a new college course and you get asked to write Tic Tac Toe, again, don't just copy this, but use it for reference and just see how I did it. And why I like this approach rather than, if I still got the history, yeah. Why I like this is you'll see a lot of examples on many sort of tutorial websites, should we call them, and what they'll be doing is they'll be actually numbering a square, so that the grid will actually, rather than what I had at the start, which was a nice empty grid, which is what you would actually have if you were playing it on a blackboard or on a piece of paper, they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I prefer this because it's more realistic, and all you need to do is actually convert the board position in your head, which is not really very difficult if you remember. Well, you don't even need to remember, I've put it there for you. Enter a square, top left equals 1, bottom right equals 9. So 1 up there, 9 down there, and it's not difficult to really go top to bottom, left to right, is it? Hopefully not. That is how to write Tic Tac Toe in C. Now, I just thought it would be good to do this rather than C++, because there's a lot of examples on YouTube and elsewhere of C++. And again, as I said, do this before doing this. And if anyone saw my interview with Code Monkey King a while back, he really nicely summed it up by saying that C++ is like seeing a pretty girl and you just don't know how to phrase it, but yeah, it gives you temptation to try it, whereas learn C, then learn C++. I don't know if that's how colleges recommend it, but I found it, especially if you like tinkering with Arduino or anything sort of embedded or any electronics projects, then C will be much more easy to learn and more useful to you in the near to mid-term future. So yeah, there we go. Learning C using principles that you would have applied even if you'd written it in Python. So I was going to show you something else on here. So it was going to be a demonstration of my Python teletyper. Problem I've had is it works fine when I tested it on my laptop. Testing it on this PC, which is also running Linux Mint, I have a problem. And I can only think that the problem is caused because I'm screen recording at the same time and it just slows everything down. I don't think I've gained any erroneous characters by... Let's just open it in Vim and let's just see if I've... open terminal, Vim... No. So I don't know why that is. What I might do is I'll do another demonstration of this in another video, but what it really does is it reads a text file and then it effectively types it to the screen. which I thought might be good for doing a video, because then it can type the screen and I can talk rather than trying to type and talk, which for those of us who aren't amazing typists, sometimes it just causes too many typos and makes for a rubbish video. So yeah, a little Vim tip. I don't know if I've mentioned, I think I've mentioned it before, but rather than doing shift, colon, quit, or quit exclamation, just do shift ZZ. Shift ZZ is probably the single best Vim tip I've ever had. And yeah, you will see loads of people talking about Vim and it takes a day to work out how to even quit, and that's just, don't listen to them. Vim is worth learning, and it may sound like an old school, kind of an old geezer, old boomer saying learn Vim because, you know, and you might think, oh, well, it takes so long to learn, it's not worth it. The time that you invest in Vim, even if it's 3 hours, 6 hours, you will get back in the long run. So yeah, learn Vim, learn touch typing, which I'm not really practicing what I'm preaching, but to learn to touch type, I know it's not exactly coding, but again, it's something which it will, the time you save in the long run will completely negate any time you've invested in it. So yeah, that's my other tip. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up in comments because of the algos. It does seem, I've heard that it's the thumbs up which really make the difference. So yeah, thumbs up and all that. Thumbs up. Thank you. Thanks for watching, and I hope this has been interesting.